everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Meredith E. Phillips, and this is going to be everyone's favorite. It's a Hodge Podge video. So I have quite a few things that I wanted to share and discuss that were like not really related to each other. I put out an open Q&A, submit your question kind of thing. So we're just going to smush it all together into one video. I'll put timestamps in the description, so if you want to skip around, feel free. I have to start an announcement. We'll get into writing updates, writing progress. I have a scam alert for you. We'll talk about that. And then I've got the question and answers at the end. So there's a bunch to get through, so let's go ahead and get into it. First announcement. Are you so excited? The announcement is I have a newsletter. Now, if you've been around for a very long time, you might be like, Meredith, didn't you already have a newsletter? I did. You could have signed up for a newsletter from me ages ago, literally like 5 years ago. So I started a mailing list. I sent one newsletter in 2021. And then I never sent another one ever again. So I was like, what am I putting in a newsletter? I share everything here on my YouTube channel. Like, Anyway, so it's just been sitting there, and now though, I have things to share that could go in a newsletter. So the link to sign up for that is in the description. Please do check it out if you're interested. I have things upcoming. Very exciting things. I've seen the exciting things, and I've been sitting on it for like a month now. And I'm very hopeful that I will get the thumbs up to share very soon. It should be soon. Like, it should be soon. It should be soon. I'm really excited to share. But anyway, if you want to be the first to know, go ahead and sign up for that newsletter in the link below. I'll be sharing things early with the newsletter, folks. It will be announcements. It will be giveaways. It'll be exclusive sneak peek kind of stuff. So yeah. That's in the description below. I do promise that you will not be inundated with emails from me. I don't have time for that, frankly. So, you know, when there's actually something to tell you, you'll get a newsletter. Once again, please do check it out if you're interested. Okay, number 2, writing update. Part of the reason you're getting this Hodge Podge video is because I didn't really do anything over the past weekend, and I had nothing to vlog. I was not feeling great. I got through literally one chapter. I revised one chapter over Saturday and Sunday. So yeah, not really anything to share there. I'm doing pretty good though with the revisions and everything. I did hand in past pages for A Rogue's Guide to Winning a Wife. Yay! I sent those back last week. So that is done. It's off my plate. I'm so happy to not have to look at that again. And I also sent Act 1 of Book 2 to my critique partner. So she's going to look through that. I already finished revisions on Act 2 and I've started on Act 3. I basically am planning to send her one act at a time, and I'm trying to stay like an act ahead of her in terms of where I am with revisions, right? So I'm maybe a third of the way through Act 3, something like that. I'm on chapter 27 out of 42, and it's going pretty good, you know. Zhuzhing things up a little bit. I didn't make very much progress over the weekend, unfortunately, but I am still like a week ahead of where I'm supposed to be in my little checklist. Hold on. Everyone loves a checklist. All right, so I am right here doing pretty good. I'm already like so excited to send this to my editor. I'm not going to send it to her still for several months yet, but I'm very excited to see like what she has to say, because I think I said this in one of the previous vlogs, but I'm really not doing a whole lot of really any like major moving around. I'm adding like chunks to scenes, but I'm not adding any new scenes. I'm not deleting any scenes. I'm not thinking, oh my gosh, like this chapter needs to be moved over here and that chapter needs to be moved over here. You know, I'm not doing like major work like that. So I'll be very curious to see what kinds of developmental revisions she comes back with, because I'm sure there will be plenty, and I'm expecting that it'll be more than what I had for Rogue's Guide, because by the time she saw Rogue's Guide, it was on draft like 10, right? It had been through a lot of revisions. A lot of people had read it and given me feedback, which I had implemented. This one though, it's really not going to have that much outside input. And so anyway, I'll be very curious to see what she thinks. But we'll get to that, of course, you know, several months down the line. All right, next, we're going to pop over to my computer because I have something to show you. It is a scam. It's a scam. It's a trap. I got this crazy email and let me just show you. All right, let's talk about scam emails. You maybe have gotten some of these. I feel like I've seen a bunch of people saying recently that they're getting these like pretty consistently. So let's look at these because I've seen some people also post certain things and be like, is this a scam? Like, what is this? It's a scam. So I'm going to show you what I got and I'm going to show you why and how I knew immediately that this was just trash. So here's the email. Editorial support for A Rogue's Guide to Winning a Wife. Now that immediately to me was like, this is just trash because I already have editorial support for the book. So I don't know why you're offering more, huh? Oh, let me record my screen. Hold on. All right. I want you to pause the screen real quick if you've never seen something like this. This is all like ChatGPT slop AI writing. It just is. Nobody actually wrote this. This is just AI slop. It's actually a pretty chunky email, which is hilarious because it takes a lot of words to say absolutely nothing. So let's see what it says. First of all, dead giveaway. Dear Meredith E. Phillips, if you're writing to someone, are you really putting the E in there? I would normally expect if this was a real person, it would either be Dear Meredith, Dear Miss Phillips, something like that, right? It would not be Dear Meredith E. Phillips. Right there, you should be deleting this email. But let's say you just kind of gloss over that and we're going to keep going. I recently came across your upcoming historical romance. And I wanted to say that the manuscript immediately stands out as a project with strong commercial and emotional potential within the Regency for romance market. Blah, blah, blah. I recently came across your upcoming novel. How? Where did you see like a social media post? Okay. But then what stands out as a project with strong commercial and emotional potential? Well, I mean, it did get a book deal. So it did have some commercial potential. So, okay, yes. The premise feels both classic and fresh. Like, look at this. This is just trash. This also says nothing. This phrasing here and this phrasing here are literally just pulled from various social media posts and like the book announcement deal. Balancing personal stakes and emotional tension. You can say that about basically any romance novel. Combination of wit, romantic conflict, and layered character motivation is exactly the kind of storytelling that resonates strongly. No, it doesn't. That's in every book, unless it's a bad book. What book doesn't have romantic conflict that is also classified as a romance novel? Layered character motivation. Like that, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. What especially caught my attention is that the way the story appears to balance elegance with emotional accessibility. Elegance? Did you read it? You couldn't have legally because it's not out yet. So I don't know where you're getting this from. You could say this about any book. Literally any of them. As a manuscript editor and proofreader with experience supporting fiction authors, I often work with writers at both pre-publication and publication-ready stages. Manuscript editor. There's different types of editors. There's developmental editors, copy editors, line editors, there are proofreaders. Most people are not going to call themselves a manuscript editor because that doesn't tell me what kind of editing you're doing. Most people don't offer all of the editings. They don't. They specialize in one, maybe two areas. You'll oftentimes see like copy editing and line editing. Kind of somebody will offer both of those services. Those are different services, but they might offer both because they are closely related, but they're not the same thing. Here they're saying, you know, what they'll actually improving dialogue rhythm, sharpening romantic tension. Again, you could say this about like anything, any book in any genre. Should you ever want a professional editorial eye before publication or during later revision stages, I would be glad to support the manuscript through detailed editing, proofreading, or refinement work. So she's pitching her service to me, which is hilarious because I've already done everything. I got this literally like 3 days before I handed in past pages. Like, I'm not doing developmental editing at this stage. And then she signs off with her name, book editor, manuscript specialist. What is that? No one's calling themselves a book editor or a manuscript specialist. If you look on any reputable publisher's website and look at like the team, about us kind of page, they'll have their editors listed and they'll have their official title underneath. And it'll either just say editor or editorial director or associate editor, senior editor. It'll say something like that. It's not going to say book editor. I know you're a book editor. It's a publishing house. What else are you editing? That's redundant. So anyway, this whole thing is just a mess. The other dead giveaway, the deadest of dead giveaways, is the email address at gmail.com. If you ever get an email like this and you're like, is this real? What? What is the domain? What is the @ domain coming from? Is it penguinrandomhouse.com? No, it's Gmail. No publishing professional is going to send you an email from a Gmail, Hotmail, Yahoo, whatever. That's not where it's coming from. It's going to come from the official simonandschuster.com or whatever it is. Also, if they work for an actual publisher, they're going to have that in their signature. They'll have editorial director at Penguin Random House or whatever it is. So I sent back a very professional reply. I don't know why I sent this, because I was just pissed because it was just so stupid and I was in a mood and I was like, this is dumb. So I wrote back. Anyway, I would not advise writing back, but I did. I did not expect to get a reply, but I did get a reply. I understand your reaction and I appreciate the direct feedback. Who talks like that? ChatGPT talks like that. For clarity, I am a real editor. You're not reaching out personally. Okay. Then they link right here. If helpful, you're welcome to review my professional background here. We'll get to that in a second. I'll also take your feedback seriously moving forward and make my outreach more personal and concise. I didn't ask. Who talks like that? I'd be happy to continue the conversation in a more tailored way. What does that mean? What are you talking about? It's just AI. Anyway, I'm going to show you what this goes to because it is hilarious. All right. This is actually a real editor at Penguin Random House, Danielle Dietrich. Hi, Danielle. If you're watching this, I don't know why you would, but someone's trying to pretend they're you. This is the actual Penguin Random House website with all their various people. But let's look at the URL up here. Penguin.com. That is real. Danielle Dietrich, she is a real lady. Source equals chatgpt.com. Oh. They asked ChatGPT to give them this URL, and then they put this in here. And then they didn't even try to hide it. It's just sitting there. Is a real Penguin Random House employee going to put this in their link? No. So once again, I should have just deleted it, but I wrote back a very professional 2 emails actually, basically saying, lols, I already have a book deal and I'm basically done. So I don't know why you're emailing me. And then I noticed the ChatGPT thing and I just had to laugh. So there you go. And then the final reply I got was just, wow, okay. So anyway, please don't fall for this. I've seen messages from some people on various places on the internet where they're like, oh my gosh, I got this email. Like, is this real? And people are like, no, it's not real. What are you talking about? So please, obviously never give your money to someone. People from publishing houses are not just randomly reaching out to you. Like, that's not how this works. So please be careful when you're doing this kind of stuff. Just delete it. Don't reply back. I mean, you can if you want to play with them, I guess, but you should really just delete it. All right. Back to the Meredith who was sitting over there. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into this Q&A. I asked a couple different spots if anyone had questions of any sort, and I got a whole page worth of questions here. So let's go ahead and get into it. Some of these are actually like, people asked almost the exact same questions. So let's go ahead and start with pets to take a little break from the writing stuff. But basically, 2 people asked questions about the dogs. Where did they come from? Why did you choose to do dogs instead of bunnies? So let's chat about that. We had bunnies. If you're new around here, we had 5 house rabbits prior to getting the dogs. I did love the house rabbits. They were my little babies. But as they aged, they required, of course, as you might expect, more and more assistance from me. I work from home. I'm the one here all the time, so I was the one doing like a large chunk of the physical work to clean them, clean their little pens, do all of the things for them. And by the time they were getting old and really into the last several months of their lives, which stretched, because we had 5 of them, that stretched for like 3 years, where one would go and then we'd have several months and then another would go, but they were all in that end of life stage. And there was just a lot. I was palpitating their bladders. I was cleaning them when they would mess on themselves. 2 of them were in diapers at one point. One of them was in a standing bassinet by himself. Like, it was just a lot of work. And rabbits are also just, there's just a lot of work that goes into taking care of them and making sure that they have everything they need. And I just didn't want to do that kind of work anymore. I was very happy to care for those rabbits at the end of their life. Honestly, that's one of the things I think I'm most proud of in my life is how I cared for them in those last little bits of their time here with us. But it was just exhausting. And the idea of getting another rabbit just felt like, I didn't want to have to do anything with anything too much with rabbits anymore. I was happy to let that be done when they were done. And I've always wanted a dog. I didn't have dogs growing up, and hilariously, I was like, they'll be easier because they can go outside. Like, you don't have like a pen set up. They don't have like a litter bin, And then, of course, we ended up getting a dog that had various issues. So she hasn't been an easy pet, but it's fine. I love her. But that didn't quite work the way we thought it would. Anyway, both dogs are from Saudi Arabia, randomly. We didn't choose that necessarily. They both ended up here at the same rescue in Texas, and they were both up for adoption at basically the same time, and I wanted them. So that's how we got them. They both ended up over here through various means. They didn't know each other, they weren't in the same family or something when they were in Saudi Arabia, but they both ended up here. We adopted them. And there you go. All right, the next is a question about publishing and being on submission. How does submission work once you have a book deal? Are you allowed to go back out on sub right away? I feel like I'm gonna have a manuscript traffic jam. If my manuscript sells, do I have to wait for it to release to go back out? I already have 2 more ready for my agent. That's amazing. That is actually such a great position to be in, frankly. I wish I had multiple ready to go. But okay, so this is going to vary a little bit, and it's going to depend on whether the books are in the same age category and genre. If you have an adult fiction novel, I think typically your agent would only want to send out 1 per age category and genre. So you could maybe be on submission with an adult fantasy and a middle grade contemporary at the same time. But if you go out with 2 adult contemporaries, you're going to be limiting the number of editors that you can submit to. It'd be weird to send the same editor 2 different manuscripts. I don't think that's usually how it works. Once you get a book deal, let's say you sell your adult fantasy novel or whatever it is, your contract is going to have, most likely, I think all contracts have this, or at least the vast majority do, your contract is going to have what's called an option clause. The option clause is going to tell you what you're allowed to do with other projects. Most option clauses are going to say something like, your publisher gets first dibs on your next project. That phrasing in there can vary. Mine says that mine publisher has first dibs on any adult fiction book I have next, which is any genre. Some people have negotiated and they've made it so that it says, their next adult fantasy novel. So if they had an adult contemporary, they could go out on sub to some other publisher with it. So it'll depend on what your option clause says. But you also need to think about too, it'll depend on your own life circumstances. Do you have kids running around? Do you have a full-time job? Or are you just hanging out at home somehow and you can just spend all day writing? A dream, honestly. If you sell 2 books to 2 different publishers, you're going to have 2 books at 2 different stages of the publishing process. You might get feedback from both editors at the same time who are asking for you to do big developmental edits on like the same time scale, which could get very, very busy very, very quickly. So you would need to kind of evaluate your own life, frankly, and see like, can you handle the workload that would be involved with having 2 books under contract at the same time. Sort of tangential to that, somebody else asked, can you explain how book 2 in a book deal works? I've always wondered whether the person's agent reads it or if book 2 drafts go straight to the editor. Is your agent still available to brainstorm for it, or are they involved with book 2 at all? I think, again, this is going to depend a little bit on your agent to some extent and your editor to some extent. I've seen plenty of people who get like a 2 or a multiple book deal and their agent is like not involved pretty much at all in the creation of those multiple books. They don't look at an outline, they don't read it, they don't offer any kind of feedback, and that can be totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, certainly. Other agents want to see it first before it goes to the editor. I think that's maybe not quite as common. My agent offered if I wanted to send her book 2 so she could kind of read through it and give me a little bit of feedback. I'm welcome to do that, so I'm definitely going to take her up on that. But a lot of times I think with book 2, it does just go straight to your editor. The timetable, again, is kind of crunchy, and so you don't have a ton of time to send it to like your critique partners and beta readers and your agent and like a bunch of other people. You know, you've got to be moving kind of fast. So typically, again, timetables can vary, but a lot of people end up just sending it directly to the editor. Okay, the next question is, how has your writing and revision process changed over the years? It's stayed the same in a lot of ways, but I think I just recognize issues sooner than I did before. I am a big outliner and a brainstormer, and I know if I don't take the right amount of time to do all that brainstorming and all of the detailed outlining I do, the first draft is going to be a disaster. And I get really paralyzed if the first draft is truly a mess. It's so hard to take 50, 60, 70,000 words and fix that versus an outline that's maybe like, even if it's like a 40-page outline, that's still way less than a full draft. So it's so much more manageable to me to move things around in an outline format and get that really solid. And I also know me, there's been times in the past where I've had like a kind of a loose outline, and there's been plot points where I'm like, I'm not really sure how that's going to work. And my brain would say, you'll just do the first draft, you'll figure it out. I don't figure it out. I just don't. That does not work for me. I just end up writing myself into corners, and then it's a disaster. I know now I do not let myself get away with, I'll just, this kind of fudge this in here a little bit. It'll be fine in the draft. I don't do that. I am very careful in those outlines to be very specific with how things are working out and how characters are acting and blah, 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 the whole thing. And I think if you look back at the recent outlining vlogs I did for book 2, there were points where I was like, I know something is wrong here. I don't know what, but this doesn't feel right. And I worked at it until I got it right, Yeah, so I think my process has changed in that I know myself and I don't let myself get away with kind of flubbed outlines anymore, because for me, I need that outline to be super solid in place. Okay, next question. What was your favorite book you read recently that was not for research or craft? Absolutely, 5 out of 5 stars, The Dove and the Rogue. This is Harper St. George's newest release. It's book 3 in a series. I think you need to read all 3, like the first 2 books, to then get to book 3. You don't have to, like, it's set up to be a standalone, but I think it's better because you see this couple in the first 2 books and then it's really set up at the end of book 2. Immaculate. I stayed up late 2 nights in a row reading this book. I don't do that. Like, I just don't do that basically ever. I did it twice because this book was so good. Oh my gosh. Yes. If you like historical romance, Harper St. George, just read everything she's ever written basically. But this series was so good. And that 3rd book was just like 5 out of 5 stars. Are you planning on a book 3 in your historical romance series? I would love to write 4 because I have 4 guys and I have stories in mind for all 4 of them. I'll get to do at least 2, because I have the 2-book deal, but we'll see after that. I mean, they have to, you know, buy the other 2 in the series if I want to write them. But yeah, I have ideas for sure. And we can all cross our fingers and hope that I get a chance to write them. Okay, 2 people I think asked basically the same question, and that was, why Regency romance? Like, why am I writing this instead of, I don't know, literally anything else, I guess? I love Regency romance. I love romance books in general, but I really love the historic time period, and I think the Regency era is just super interesting. There's a lot going on. Britain is involved in a ton of stuff overseas, but they also have a lot of goofy things happening, like just within England. And so the time period is just very interesting. But I really love all the societal constraints, right? I wouldn't want to live in that. That sounds kind of miserable, but for book writing purposes, it provides a lot of inherent conflict. There's a lot of barriers between people, and I really like that. I think also that removed time period feels like more of an escape, right? If I read a contemporary set novel, I still do enjoy those. I do read some contemporary romances, but it feels very like this could be happening, you know, in the next town over. And I don't want always to be living in this world, right? Like, get me out of here a little bit. But so yeah, so the Regency era helps me kind of feel like, ooh, I've been transported somewhere else. And I really enjoy it. I had tried writing contemporary project model rom-com, for those of you that remember, and my writing voice never seemed to quite, it always felt like I was having to force it. I had to force a contemporary sounding voice. And I feel like my natural writing style is a little more like formal somehow than what you typically find in like a contemporary romance. And so I really like that historic setting. I think works well with how I like to write. Okay, someone else asked, how do you make writer friends? What a good question. I'm basically the worst at making friends just in general, so I don't know if I'm the best person to ask for this, but the friends I have made have come about very slowly, and it usually was because somebody reached out to me first, frankly, which, you know, I should be maybe a little more proactive, but I get in my head about all of that. So anyway, some people I've met through like workshops or classes and things like that. We were in the same thing together and got connected that way and started talking over DMs or emails or whatever. Some people, like, I followed on Instagram, my closest writer friend, who's my critique partner, we started following each other on Instagram in like 2018, back when hashtags meant something and you could actually sort by most recent. Remember those hallowed days? I found her, I think, through like NaNoWriMo, and she was also writing historical romance at the time. Amy, I still need that book. We followed each other for literal years. And if I posted something, she would like it. And if she posted something, I would like it. But we didn't really talk. And it wasn't until a couple years ago, I don't remember what set it off, but we started chatting in our DMs. She ended up beta reading for me. I read a bunch of her stuff and did beta reader work for her. And we just like got to be friends very slowly through multiple years of exchanging work and all that kind of stuff. Other people like I've connected with here on YouTube. And again, it's like they comment on my videos, I comment on their videos, and it's just sort of developed from there. If you're like me and that initial reach out to somebody else is really awkward and uncomfortable, like I don't know if I can say this because I really have a hard time doing this, but like just reach out, leave a comment about how much you liked their video or their post or whatever. Or if it's more of a DM situation, send them a DM. Like, you can just do it. It doesn't have to be weird. But I always overthink it. I'm like, oh, I want to say this to them. And then I'm like, wait, is this going to come off like stupid or funny, or like, is there sarcasm in here and they're not going to get it and they're going to think I'm being mean? I overthink it, and then I end up not posting anything or sending them any sort of message. So anyway, don't do that. Just do it. It's not that big a deal. Okay, 2 kind of interconnected questions. Would you consider writing in another genre, and would you need to find a new agent if you did switch genres? At the moment, I don't want to write anything else. Never say never. Who knows? You know, 5 years down the road, I could have an idea for, I don't even know, horror? Probably not. I don't read horror, but I also never thought I would be writing romance, so here we are. At the moment, I have no plans to switch. If I did switch to a different genre, I could most likely still stay with my same agent. Different agents represent different genres, so if I switched to something that my agent just did not represent, then I would maybe need to find a new agent for that. Like if I wanted to do a picture book, my agent doesn't do picture books, so I would need someone else for that. But it would just depend on what your agent was willing to work on, essentially. The next question is, how have you kept your skin so flawless and youthful? Thank you so much. First of all, I am a millennial, and we were raised on preservatives and garden hose water. So there's tip number one. I don't feel like my skin is that flawless. In the mirror, honestly, it's so like red and blotchy, which I hate. And nothing I've done has like smoothed out the overall like color. I don't know. I think it's because I'm in a camera and I have on some makeup. I think that's what's happening. The only two things I would say is I do change my pillowcase at least once a week. And I do try to limit sugar because I think sugar is one thing that really does break me out. I mean, I do fail at that because I love sugar, but I can tell if I stay away from sugar, it does help with things. All right, I want to hear the good, bad, ugly from submission and your debut year. What should authors know who are pursuing this? We rarely get a peek into anything after the agent. Such a good question. So for submission, honestly, like if you go into submission with zero hope that your book will sell, then you'll have no problems because you're not going to believe in yourself. And honestly, that might be the best route to take. Don't believe in yourself when you go on submission. I mean, not really, but also I truly did not think the book was going to sell. Honest to God, did not think it was going to go anywhere. I thought I would be on submission for like a year, it would peter out, and we would eventually shelve it. I truly thought that's what was going to happen. So I had no real anxiety. I was just like, oh, that's nice. She'll send it out and it'll just die. And I was fine with that. I was working on something else that I was excited about. And so the book deal really and truly was a shock to me. I really was not expecting that. And so just lose hope and you'll be fine. You'll be good to go. I don't feel like I'm the best person to ask about submission because it was so fast. 5 weeks. Like that's so fast. And so I didn't have a chance to like have my hopes raised. I didn't go through situations where like I made it to acquisitions and then it died at acquisitions. You know, I didn't have any of that. So I don't really know that I have very good advice other than just don't hope in yourself, which is actually terrible advice, but you know. From debut year, I have had the best experience so far, truly, truly. I know we hear a lot of moaning and groaning and darkness about the publishing industry, and that is not unfounded. I definitely have talked to people who are not having as great a time. But for me personally, again, I feel so lucky and I'm so incredibly grateful that my experience so far has been amazing. My editor is so fast replying to emails, getting things back to me on time. That's another thing. I don't know if this is like something that's talked about. I don't know. We hear a lot about like when you're querying, when you're on submission, it takes forever for editors to get back to you or for agents to get back to you if you're querying. And like that kind of makes sense. They have a full workload and they obviously are going to take care of their existing clients first. And so the people who are like trying to get their foot in the door are the last priority on their list. So it makes a little bit of sense that it would take a long time to hear back from them. Once you actually get a book deal though, it can still take a very long time to hear back from your editor. And there's a lot of experiences I've heard from other people who say, you know, their editor said they were going to get them their edit letter at the end of March, and the end of March came and went and there was nothing, and they emailed in like mid-April and were like, hi, just checking to make sure I didn't miss something, and then the editor was like, oh, end of April, I'll get it to you. And it just keeps getting bumped and bumped and bumped, and that surprised me. That is not uncommon though. I've also been surprised, I think, at some of the amount of revision that some people are doing. And I'm not sure, I feel like this could vary certainly from editor to editor. And I think it also depends on the state of your manuscript when it is submitted. So mine, again, did go through multiple rounds of revision, both between me and critique partners and beta readers, but I was also in the mentorship program. I had my agent look at it, of course. You know, it had been revised quite a few times. I think some people have gotten book deals where theirs has not gone through quite that much work. And so they've gone through like multiple rounds of developmental edits with their editor. Now, maybe my book will come out and people will be like, she should have had like 3 more rounds of developmental edits because this is terrible. I don't know. But I was surprised, I think, to hear people they've done massive amounts of revision. And it's not that they're being forced into that. I feel like most of what I've heard from people is they're kind of like slogging through it, but they also feel like the book is going to definitely be better when they're done. This is being done like with consent. They're not like being forced by their editor to do stuff that they don't want to do. You can definitely push back if you feel like you're being asked to do something that is completely at odds with what you envision for the book. And ideally, all of those kinds of revision and developmental kinds of discussions should happen on that initial call with the editors, so you know a little bit at least of what they're thinking. I think in terms of what should you know if you're pursuing this is there is no average experience. The timelines are all over the place in terms of like, when did you get to start talking about covers? When did you have the marketing call? I just feel like there's no like average experience when it comes to publishing, because all the publishers and all the various editors just do things different. I do think it's super helpful. I feel like I've said this before, but super helpful if you're in the query trenches or if you're out on submission. Do the work to learn as much as you can about how things progress, and like what the various stages are, what different things mean, the lingo. Like there's just a lot. It's a whole industry. The more you know about it before you actually get into it, the better, because there's not been like a whole lot that's been explicitly explained to me. They've kind of assumed I know generally what's happening, and I do generally know what's happening. Not that I know everything, I've definitely asked questions, but all of my obsessive research and listening to other people talk about it over the years has definitely helped, because I feel like I kind of know generally what to expect, which is nice to be moving through this and not be completely blind to what's coming next. Okay, the final question. I don't know if I'm going to have a very good answer for this one, but I'll do my best. Do you have any tips for getting through a writing slump? It's my first time writing under deadline, and I'm normally a very fast drafter, but I'm afraid the story isn't working and the words just aren't coming. This has never happened to me before, and this time it matters. Do you have any suggestions? So yeah, it's hard. It's a completely different thing writing under deadline than it is just, writing in your own time. My first suggestion with motivation and stuff like that is start a YouTube channel and just make yourself produce videos based on your writing, because then you have an audience and there's that external pressure. You better get stuff done or you're not going to have anything to share, not going to have anything to film. So start a YouTube channel, first of all. Secondly, and possibly a little more practical, I will say, like when I was drafting book 2 here, it felt so clunky. It felt like I was like, this is coming out like so bad. I don't like it. I felt kind of that way through the whole thing. By the time I finished and I let it sit for a week and then I went back and reread it, I was like, oh, okay. It definitely needs work. But it wasn't like the worst thing I'd ever read in my life. I even, as I was reading through sections where I was like, I remember writing this and I remember feeling like it was just so bad. It like kind of wasn't. It was like, again, needed some help, but it wasn't unsurmountably horrific. You know what I mean? If you're feeling like the words that are coming out are just so clunky and really rough and you don't like it, it feels gross, just write it. Just write it so you can be done with it and go back later when you're done with the whole thing and reread it, and it probably won't be as bad as you're thinking. Something about when you're right up close, writing those initial drafting words, you can't zoom out enough to really see it for what it is. If you have the ability to have any sort of like accountability partner, critique partner, just another writing friend who can kind of be a little bit of a pressure, an external pressure of, okay, you said you were going to get chapter whatever done today. Did you get through it? Like something so that you're held accountable, that can sometimes help. I honestly like the external pressure. It's not, I don't like failing in front of other people. Who does? And so by posting these videos, or if you don't want to post a video, you could post on Instagram. Hey, I'm writing my first draft. Here's my progress for today. I'll post again tomorrow to let you know how I'm doing. It seems kind of dumb, but I don't want to have to tell people I didn't do a good job. So if I don't want to tell them that, then I'm going to have to get to work. I would absolutely recommend throwing your phone on the other side of the room, putting it on do not disturb, like silence, whatever, because all those little notifications like just get in your brain and distract you, and that can ruin your flow. Listen to the loop of The Price is Right. I'll put a link below. I don't know, that just does it for me. Find a playlist of some sort. I find music can really help, especially if it's like all the same kind of tone or volume level. Sometimes a loop of the same song or the same instrument, whatever, the same piece of music can really help you just sort of like flow into things. I do that a lot. If you are drafting and you don't have an outline, maybe you need an outline. I don't know. Everyone's different. You can absolutely pants a draft, and that's, that works for some folks. And if that's you, then that's you. But if you're feeling like, I don't know what's going to happen next, or it's feeling like the scenes aren't very connected, you might want to pause the drafting and actually do a more thorough, or do an outline if you haven't done one at all. That could help. I know like Alyssa always says she does, or not always, but what she often does is she starts writing and she has like maybe 10 chapters outlined. And then she'll kind of finish those, writing them, and then she'll outline a little bit more. She'll outline like another little chunk, and then write that, and then she'll outline a little more. And she kind of does it like in that staggered method. That would never work for me, but it works for her, so maybe it'll work for you. If any of you have tips on getting out of a writing slump, let us know in the comments, because I also feel like the last time I was in a writing slump was years ago, and I just didn't write. I just took like 3 or 4 months off. I just didn't do anything. So that's not really an option when you're under deadline, under contract like that. But yeah, if you are a writing slump expert and you know how to get out of one, let us know in the comments. There's one more question on here, but I think I'm going to actually save it and try to make this into a whole other video. So stay tuned, maybe. I was starting to look at some stuff earlier today and I was like, am I actually going to share this? So stay tuned. Okay, I think that is all of the questions. I feel like this was probably a really long video. I don't know if I'm sorry about it, but there it is. I'll be back next week with something. It might be the answer to that final question. It might be a writing vlog. Not sure. We'll find out together. Again, if you're interested in signing up for my newsletter, please do click that link in the description. But for now, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, you can click the subscribe button. I usually post videos on Fridays. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.